Okay, welcome to this video about Thetis 2.10.3.6 final release. It's finally here after a lot of release candidates and testing. It's finally here. It's currently the 13th of October. So I'm going to quickly go over some of these features in the video. There is obviously a whole bunch of other videos on my YouTube channel which cover these things in more depth, so it's probably worth checking those out if you want. But the new features in 2.10.3.6 which have occurred over the space of 12 months or so. It's been over 12 months actually since .5 was released, the final. So it's about time that it went to .6. Anyway, in this version we have a new database manager. We can look at that. Many meter items, multimeter items and related things. You can now interact with some of them as well. They're not just display, you can use them. There's a whole I/O system for data, outbound and inbound, into in and out of Thetis, so we'll look at that. And the legacy UI, and this is work in progress at the moment. The legacy UI can be disabled, certain elements of it can be. Lots of improvements on NR2. How can it get any better, we ask ourselves, but Warren, the magician, has improved it to include machine learning data, and it really is something better than it used to be, which is quite amazing. Coordinate system for multimeter containers, so you can see where you're placing things. Kenwood data options for CAT 1 through 4 and TCP/IP CAT. We've also got auto start features in Thetis now. Memory system in diversity, so you can have up to 8 stored. A whole bunch of MIDI and UCAT commands. CWX form has now got function keys that you can press to activate the messages in there, and there's even an option so that the window doesn't need focus, so you can be in your logger or whatever and hit a function key. As long as it's not used by that logger, it will do whatever is set up in CWX. CMAZO from Brian, which is an amazing addition for low latency audio, and it removes, well, disables the audio codecs and all the audio stuff in the hardware, and essentially brings all that out to an external audio device. So that's pretty cool. Finally, we have an about box. How many years has it taken to get one of those? But we have an about box. Endless bugs and fixes and lots more changes. And the change log will be on GitHub. And in the software, you can view it in the setup tab there. And some of these bolded ones are what I consider the important ones. So we can have a quick peruse down that, but pause the video if you want to read it a bit in more depth. I'll just scroll down a few. But there's lots and lots of changes, additions, fixes, and whatnot. But yeah, it goes on and on. But yeah, have a look on GitHub, or like I say, in the setup for a detailed view. And there are some links in this changelog to videos and things, like there. Watch the database management video. There's a bunch of them throughout the changelog. Anyway, so that's a quick overview of what the video is going to be. So let's start it up, and I want to start from a position where you might be coming from 2.10.3.5, And as you know, or you probably know, the database is stored inside this structure here. You would have your name or user account there, app roaming, HP, OpenHP SDR, and then Thetis 64, and you will recognize this structure. And in here you will have database. So what we're going to do, we're going to install Thetis, and we're going to watch this as we run it up for the very first time from what could be 2.10.3.5. So we'll see what Thetis does in here. So I'm just going to assume that you've downloaded it, and ignore all these. This will be the one that you download, 2.10.3.6. So I'm going to run that up, and we'll keep that view ready to look at. So we're just going to go through this setup. What I'll do, I'll actually remove my version here, and then I'll run that again. But if you're going over the top of 2.10.3.5, you can probably just do complete. But I always do advise uninstalling, just in case. You can use add remove programs to do that, but I don't tend to be honest. I just go over the top of it if it's a different build. But so I'll assume you've downloaded this from GitHub, and we're just going to go through the install now, which is done, and we're going to run it up. So watch this folder structure here as we do. And you'll notice that database has vanished, or looks like it's vanished, and it's created this new DB folder. And all that is related to the new database manager that I mentioned. And database has been renamed here to old database. And if there are more data, if you've got files in there with that same exact name, then it will keep appending a number on the end, and it will eventually succeed in the rename. But what it's also done is created this database folder, DB folder, and your existing database has now been put inside this structure, and there it is. But you don't really have to worry about any of that in there. I just wanted to show you what happens. So this is 2.10.3.6, and we can turn it on. We'll get to some frequency, and we'll turn it on as you'd expect to happen there. And I can switch back on and bring the audio through to recording software. So I'm going to mute this so I can't hear it, but the recording software still will. So database manager, it lives up here now in setup menu option, and there it is. If we select it now with the radio running, it'll come up with a message. It needs to be powered off while you use the manager. And you can hit OK to have that happen, or click cancel if you want to go back. So yes, we'll have that happen. And here is the database manager, and you can see that my database there has been imported. There's that folder that got created in that DB subfolder there, and that's the unique ID where it sits. So there's my database. So this is the database manager. You've got loads of buttons and options here that you can apply, and the currently active database is the one with a tick on it. So for instance, if we want to create a duplicate of this, we can highlight it here and use this button, duplicate the database, and we'll just call it dupe for test purposes, and there it is. And what we'll do, we'll switch over to that one, which we can do by selecting it, and then hit this tick, make database active. When you do that, it will ask Thetis to restart and start up with that new database, or that duplicate of our existing one. So that's a way you can take an existing database and because we hadn't applied any of these settings or saved them, it didn't have them in that database. But if you want to use Database Manager to do that sort of thing, then it's very easy. You can duplicate your databases, and now nothing will happen to that other one, and it's all happening to this one. You can do things like add a brand spanking new database. So we will hit this and call it new, and it's there. What I will do in the meantime is save this database just to get those settings stored away, and I will then flip to the new one. So I'll come into Database Manager, highlight it, and then make the database active. And you'll notice that we'll be straight into a brand spanking new database. So there is no config at all. Doesn't know about my radio or anything. So, and we can flip straight back. We can go to that duplicate one we made, and it will just switch over. It allows us to do things like auto create backups, and we can have a look at that as well quickly. So Database Manager, we're currently running this dupe one. That's the active one, the blue tick. If we see that heading there, apply to the currently active, so even if you have this one selected and you hit this button here, it will back up the database, the currently active one, and we'll call it, I don't know, B1 for now. And if we now go on to that database, there's the backup. If we were to create another backup, B2, there's B2, and it shows how old it is and all that sort of stuff. You can use these settings here to automatically take one, so when Thetis starts up or when it shuts down or both, you can have it doing that. And there's all options for exporting the database, looking at the folder, renaming, recovering backups and all that sort of stuff. Just hover over these active buttons and it'll give you tooltips, but bear in mind this section applies to the currently selected and this section applies to the currently active. So you can import an external database into the active, or you can use this function which imports into the list. So we'll give this a go. Import into the list. Now we can call it, we'll use this original database, we'll call it OG, and it's appeared there. And now if I flip to this one, then we will see that OG database. So there it is, with some meter items as well. And this is one of the new meter items, web image, so we'll have a quick look at that shortly. So I'm going to flip back now to the default one, which was the import of my original database. So that's essentially Database Manager. You don't really have to mess around with anything in the folders anymore, and you can administer it all from inside there, which is pretty cool. Right, let's just get all this up and running. So we'll have a quick look at meter items. So let's just go into multimeters. So appearance, multimeters. Now containers have been increased up to 50, so you can have 50 of these, but bear in mind that every one you make is a bit more GPU RAM processing, you know, so be wary on how many you add. And of course we can add you know, the usual suspects there that have been in Thetis for a long time, but there's quite a few new ones down here. Some of them are more complicated than others, so let's just add a clock here a minute, and we'll add a space as a new one, so we'll move that up. So that literally is a spacer, and you can alter the amount of spacing that it does, change the colors when you're in receive, so you can, you know, that's receiving. That's now in transmit, so if I was to flip over, can do all that sort of stuff with it. So that's spacer. Get rid of that, get rid of that. And there's a whole load more. Text overlay is allows you to create your own UIs and things, and there's a whole video on what this can do. So you've got some text that you want to display in receive mode, and some that you want to display in transmit mode. Like that. You can drive these around, and incidentally you can drive them around so much that you can put them on the top of other controls, and there's options for removing their back panels and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I'd advise you to watch the related videos on this that are on my channel. You can do things like display variables, so let's just move that up a bit so it's not so cropped off the bottom of the screen. And you can display some of those preset ones, so percentage, for instance, VFOA percent, VFO as opposed to VOF. VFO percent will show the frequency in that text box, and when it changes, of course, it changes here. And there are tons and tons of other variables that can be used. So this is the signal strength, there's average signal strength and all that sort of stuff. And you can use this other one, which I can't remember if it's in this list. No, it's not. There's a special one, percentage precis equals and then a value percent. So up there, percentage precis equals 1 will give 1 decimal place precision, 0 decimal places, 4. So you can do all that sort of stuff with that. And there is incidentally a percentage new line, I think it is, percentage NL, which will do that as well. And of course, if you wanted a box behind it, then you would have to increase the size of this back panel. So percentage NL is a thing as well. And of course, you can have different things displayed when you're in transmit, and you can have different offsets, different fonts, all sorts. And you can use these buttons to copy from the RX to the TX. So yeah, it takes the RX settings and puts them in the TX settings, because if you were to have this exact same thing but in red when you were transmitting, notice how it jumps over there. But if we copy the offsets, then we get to see that. So yes, that's text overlay anyway. So moving on, we'll skip data out node for now, and rotator and LED indicator. We'll look at web image. So web image does exactly what it says on the tin. It attempts to get an image from the URL specified. So you can put your own in there, where you want to get images from, and there's some preset ones in the list here. So hamsql.com, hamsql.com, I think it was. HamQSL, sorry. QSL.com. So this is the chap with all these type of ones, and these can be used here as well. If you pick one, the web image updates, and on this URL, every 600 seconds, every 10 minutes, it will get a new updated version of that. And of course, you can undock these, put them wherever you want on your screen, and etc. endless possibilities. And there are ones from Fred on BSD World, some quite interesting ones. Let's just set that on top a minute. So that's the on top pin there. U propagation. So this is a heat map for the propagation, showing at the moment it's good on 10 and 20. And you can view a dark mode version, and you just pick it again to change. So there's a dark mode version and various ones from NASA and NOAA. So that's a web image, and you can alter the size of them like so. If you were to have, you know, your meters there, you could do all that sort of stuff, and you can play around with that as much as your heart's content. So that's web image. So let's carry on looking at these. So something that's changed quite a lot in this version is VFO display. So that's the regular VFO display that we used to have in Thetis 2.10.3.5. We've all seen that. However, what you can do now is go into appearance legacy items, and you can actually turn off some of this legacy stuff. And at the moment, I'm slowly working down the list, and will eventually replace all this, and you'll be able to turn whatever you want off from the legacy system. So we can do things like hide VFO A, VFO B, and we can hide this sync box in the middle. And we can even hide the legacy meters. And we can dock this back into Thetis. So we'll hit this, and now it's contained within, and we can position that where we like. And you know, we can set the background color of this. Incidentally, if you click on the cog, it will automatically take you to the right setting page for it. You can change the background color for the container, which is this one. So that we can change that to, I know this skin is 42 grayscale for the background here, and we can then turn the border off, and lo and behold, we've got that. And we can turn no container control on, which prevents those title bars from appearing when we're in certain areas on there. If I turn that back on, you see how that bar is there. So no container control will prevent that from happening, but you can hold shift down to override that setting if you want to make it a tweak, and of course shift in the corner will show the resize handle. If you notice, there's coordinates now shown, and if you hold control down whilst doing this, it will step in tens, so you can align things a lot easier, and it does that incidentally for the resize as well. So yes, so now we've got VFO control in here, and as you can see, things are highlighting, which you never used to do. So you can change these. At the moment there's no text input on this, other than if you hover over a number and you press a digit on the keyboard, it will go into one of those digits that's highlighted. So yes, you can do things like clicking on split will now TX on this VFO. You can also click on the TX box to TX on this VFO. You can click on the bands, which will bring up a band selector, much like an icon, you know, and you just select one, and it will go there. Incidentally, yeah, it will just go there. And you can click on the filter, which will show you the filters that are set up, and you can, you know, select one of those. If you don't want to select one, it will just time out after 5 seconds, and it'll flip back. If you long hold on the kilohertz section, So left click and keep the mouse down. You will be able to select the step. So we'll do 100 steps. So now when I use mouse wheel, it's going in hundreds. And if we change that to 50 and I do mouse wheel, now it's going in 50 steps. So that's tune step basically. USB, click on USB, we get the modes. And you can do this for VFO, for that VFO, but because RX1 has the same mode per on VFO A and B, it would be linked. So yes, that's the VFO control, and there are ways to display just A. So that is now just displaying VFO A, and of course we could add another container, put a VFO control in there. He says looking for it, and we could set that to B only. So you can do things like that, and you know, you could lay these out separately, cover them up with RX2 VFO-B and all sorts of stuff. So it's very flexible. Right, VFO, let's keep going down here. Okay, band buttons. So we'll add band buttons to the container, and I think there's a video on some of this as well. But this is an RX1 band button control. So if I now click on these, it will, you know, take me to the band. If I click on the old legacy, which incidentally I can hide as well, and you can hide all this stuff on the right hand side, and you can expand it to use that area, and you can expand the top as well if you want, if you've got these sort of things somewhere else on the screen. And you don't have to put up with the look of these, you can entirely configure it. So number of columns is one thing you can change, so you can create a button strip if you want, like so, you know, and you can alter all these settings. Create a more radius, you can make them square, you can remove margins. You can essentially do anything with this. You can even make them circles. So yes, it's very flexible. Now what you can do, the active one, let's put this somewhere back to normality. Let's put 3 column in. And you can do things like use an indicator. So instead of having background color showing these selected, you can actually use an indicator, and this will be the border width of that indicator, and there are various different ones. So that's a bar on either side, top, bottom. Style 5 is a dot, but it starts out very small, so if you don't see it, then expand this border size. And then there's a dot on that side, top, bottom, top left corner, top right, bottom left, bottom right, and that's all there is. When it 13 is actually back to that again. So yeah, there's an indicator system there, and you can create nice looking buttons. Here's a little test, and you can, you know, increase this size, and if you want all your fonts to align and stuff, you can say use the inactive. So that's placed a black inactive button there, dot there, you can see. But if you know, set that to a grey, you could have that type of thing. And then you know, you could set the background color to say the skin background color, which is 42 in this case. Get rid of the border entirely on the buttons, which is that one, which you can set the color of and stuff. And then, you know, you can move your buttons there, position them wherever, get rid of the border, stop it from showing that control in there. So, and that is the band buttons. Another feature of band buttons, you can actually right click on a band and it will bring up band stack for that band, and then you can pick them directly from there. And if you've got hide on select enabled, which is really good with this, you can right click and then pick one of these, and it will flip there and get rid of the band stack window. Let's just add a container for VFO. Again, I'll leave it as the default setting. Incidentally, there is, say if we had a few in here, notice how they're off the bottom, not shown. There's an option here, auto height, which will calculate the height that the container needs to be and adjust it automatically. So that's that new auto height there. So let's get rid of these. Get back to the VFO. I wanted to show you how you bring up band stack if you were using this. You long hold on the band, so long mouse click, I think it is. Actually it's only on VFO A because band stack doesn't apply to VFO B. So long hold on VFO A band and you'll get band stack, and you can, you know, do the same thing from here, but it will only be for that band, whereas right clicking on the band buttons will give you the band stack for that band that you right click on. So that's that. So what we'll do, and of course there's highlight if you want to see which one is currently selected, and you can just mouse wheel on this box up here to flip back and forth. We'll have a look at mode. So we'll turn on auto height as well, so it will automatically scale it. There's the modes, but what we can do is select this one, pipette the settings here, so suck them up with a pipette, go to there and paste them into there. So now we've got the band buttons on there as well, but as you can see they're right next to each other, so we can put a splitter in there, a spacer, and we'll move that up there. And you know, you can set the color of it. At the moment it's slightly darker, and all that sort of thing. And of course mode button does exactly what you think it does. And we got filter buttons here, we've got antenna buttons. So let's add some spacers in. Spacer, do we need another one? Yes, we need one more. So we'll plonk that one up between those two and those there. And then we'll go to the filter buttons, and we'll, because we pipetted before, we can now just paste that straight in, and we can do that for the antenna buttons as well. Let's have a quick look at some of these. So you can right click on there and you get those as we used to get in the old one as well. It's probably not best that we put antenna buttons in there at the moment. We'll create a separate one for antenna buttons. And we will paste this in here, and we'll set the background color to something. We just pick that for now. Right, so they're sat there for now. Ignore that one for now. We'll look at this control, this container over here. What I want to do is look at tune step buttons. So I'm going to place tune step buttons on here as well. Let's put a new spacer in. Paste into this tune step the same stuff. As you can see, tune step is slightly different. So let me just hide this one for now so it's not visible. So we will look at tune step, and as you can see, those are the tune steps that this knows about. If I was to add more, tick these on, then they appear. So that does exactly what you want. If you only need a couple of tune steps in your button bar, then you can limit it through this. Like I'm not interested in 2, probably 25. You know, that type of thing. And you can alter the number of columns, of course, with that. So yes, it's entirely configurable. The same, let's flip back to the antenna buttons. And incidentally, there's new options now, so if you want some of these to flip and take the place, I'll show you how that can work in a minute. There's only show the container on receive and only show the container on transmit, so that can be used to your advantage. I'll show you with a signal meter up here that changes for transmit and receive. So the antenna buttons likewise is the same. You can say if you're not interested into, you haven't got anything on antenna 3 and you don't want to use the bypass socket or external 1 socket and you're not into the transverter info, then you can do that. So you can essentially convert it to how you want. You can just make it receive antennas or be able to pick your transmit antennas. So yeah, it's very, very flexible, and of course it, you know, does exactly what you'd expect. If we look at antenna filters, you can see that this will, here you'll see that this will change when I click on here, and if you click on one of these, it of course changes over here as well. Can't click on TX2 here because this do not TX is ticked on, but be wary that we're on the 20 meter band. You can actually do that through the setup form, but I've prevented it from the UI so that you can't accidentally click somewhere that has this set. You have to, you know, specifically go into setup and know that's exactly what you want to do, kind of thing. So that's that. Right, I think this video could be quite long, probably upwards of an hour or more. We're already at 37 minutes and we've already got anywhere. So let's remove that. What I want to do is add a container, and I'll put average signal strength in there, which is a receive meter, of course, and I'll chuck it up there. I'll use the grid system to lock it, and the size I'll set it to auto height. So I only want to show that on receive because it makes no sense to show it on transmit. So I go in to transmit there, it instantly vanishes, but what that means is you can add another one and you can put a transmit related meter in there, and we'll put auto height on this as well. We'll control key it again to lock it to coordinates. We will see where that is, roughly there, a bit bigger is there, but that will only be available on TX. And as you see, the meters are flipping around, so that's that option. Right. What else can we look at? Let's add another container. See, this is why you need loads of containers now. History graph. This does exactly what it says on the tin. It shows history of those various things over a specific time. So that's keeping 60 seconds worth, and when 60 seconds elapses, it will drive off the edge, and you can have two readings displayed at the same time. So that's that, and you can alter the you know, you can create your own scales for them, and you can copy the scales from that one and set the colors and all that type of thing. You can also use variables for these, and I will talk about that briefly in a moment. There's quite a lot of meters that can use variables, including things like, you know, signal strength here. This is this variable button, so we'll look at that shortly. So that's history graph. I think that's pretty much it, other than Rotator and lead indicator. So let's have a look at lead indicator. Now this is a very flexible item, and it uses a condition to set the true state, which for this we will set to green, and the false state we will set to red. So currently it's false. We can do things like we can put C# code into here, Boolean constructs. So we can do 1 equals 1, and that will, when it's processed it, that will become true. And now if I change it, so it's compiled that code, if I change it to 2, it will change to false. 3 is still false, but 1 equals 1, true. What that does mean, we can also use variables in here, and any that you could see in the sorry, not data, no, text overlay, text overlay, any that you can see in there, in that big list, you can use in the lead indicator. So if we look for VFO double, so what I'll do, I'll VFO keyboard issues double. Was it that VFOA double? Probably it was VFOA double. Right, so there's a double representation of that. Okay, so what I can do, I can take this variable and I can say if VFOA double is greater than 14.25. okay, so at the moment we are below 14.25 meg. If I was to go up, notice how it's turned green, because we're actually above that frequency. So we can do all sorts of crazy stuff like that, and we can use pass precis equals 6% to always lock that. Well, I would have thought, but that's obviously a bug. But it's not going to get fixed for this version. Ideally I wanted it to show all zeros there with precis equals 6, but it's not. So I will look at that for the next release. But anyway, this lead indicator can be used for lots and lots of things, and when it's true it can stop TX, so you can actually use percentage SWR in here. If SWR is greater than 1.2, or 5 or whatever, 3, sorry, you could stop TX. So let's just go somewhere a minute, set the power down a mo, and we will change this to show percentage SWR %. So at the moment it's 1.0. Yeah, weird why that wasn't showing a pile of zeros, but we'll have a look at that at some point. Okay, so if it goes over 1.2, then it'll turn green. I don't know what it will be here, so let's try. But as you notice, nothing was being displayed because we haven't got it in the transmit box here. And I need to get my line thickness down. I was messing about with this. TX. Where is it? Appearance, transmit display 1. There we go. That's better. Okay, so let's put out till we start getting some readings in Thetis. Okay, so there we go. So SWR is above 1.2 for this test. So what we'll do, go back to this and we'll say, what do we want to do? We want no TX when this happens. There you go. LED indicator stopped MOX. So that detected that the SWR was over 1.2 and it set the no TX. And you can do things like, as long as you've got the container visible, then this code will be running. So we can actually remove the panel and we can hide the LED, so we don't get to see any of it now. But the container that holds this LED indicator needs to be in use, visible, and certainly on TX. There we go. So this can be used as an extra safety thing. And you can do all sorts of stuff with this, and people have in testing, displaying info from various places. And we're going to quickly look at that right now. So let's get rid of the LED indicator. We'll leave text overlay there because we're going to use it in a minute. And I want to look at another new feature, which is in Serial Network CAT, and it's called Multimeter I/O. And I will get rid of this. This system allows data to move in and out of Thetis, specifically in and out of the meter system. If we add a TCP/IP server on the local adapter 127.0.0.1 port 9000, and I start up PuTTY, just the connection, telnet connector and stuff, I'm just going to connect to Thetis. So I'm going to say 127.0.0.1 port 9000. I'm going to do it in RAW, and we're going to connect up. So this is now connected to Thetis. So when you create these listeners, these I/O listeners, they can be UDP. You can have a TCP/IP server where you connect in. You can have a client which connects out, and you can even have serial. It will allocate one of these unique 4-character IDs, and you can specify if it's an in, out, or both bidirectional, and you can specify the format. So what we're going to do, we're going to pick RAW. Now if this was an external program, for instance, that you'd written, you can do sort of A:2, and you'll notice that it appears here. There's the A and there's the 4-character ID. So that variable has been discovered, and it's an integer type int over here. If we put 1.8 in, then it's decided that it's a floating point number, etc. If we were to put a string, hello, then it changes to that. So how can we use this? So this LED overlay, text overlay, sorry, uses these variables. Well, as you notice, this is a variable. If we highlight it and hit copy to clipboard, it will take this and put it in the clipboard, and then if we paste it in here, we can see there's the message. And if we change it here, test, it will change in Thetis straight away. And if we were to do numbers, they appear as well. So what does this mean? Well, let's add signal strength to this. And our external program, for instance, might be supplying a variable called sig of -73.0. If we look at our networking, just need to check this. There it is. So there's sig. So that's another little bugette that needs to be fixed as well. Sig : -90. So what we'll do, we'll go to -73. 73. So that's a variable. We'll get rid of this A. We can delete variables out of here just by using that. That will remove them all. That's the one that's selected. But we want to tell this meter to use that variable, so we'll come in here and we'll pick on this percent sign, use sig, select, and there it is. Negative 73, as we know, is S9, and it's on S9. Sig negative 63 would be 10 dB over 9, which is there. And if we change this by clicking on it, you can, click on the meter and it will switch between various bits of data. So there's your 10 plus 9 plus 10 dB. So that's the way you can get information into Thetis. So if you've got external amplifiers, and you can write software, and people like Ernst and a few others have OE3IDE, and a few others have written connectors that connect up to amplifiers, LP100s, and all sorts, and provide info into Thetis, so you can get a nice meter. And it'll work with things like if we put a cross meter in here, and we tell the cross meter to use a variable for forward power called sig. Well, we don't want to use sig. We want to use forward power of 10 watts, reflected power of 0 watts. If we come into here, we see these. So there's the forward power. We'll select that, and the reflected power is here. So the meter has moved instantly. But if we were obviously to get data in to Thetis via external program, then it can control the meter. And you can do lots of other things with this I/O. There are, if we remove these two meters and the text overlay, and we put in signal strength, we can use a data out node. And what does this do? It uses a 4-character ID. We're connected up, external program. There's that 4-character ID. We can copy this, and we can use it in that data node. And when we do, as long as that data node is set to output, you'll see things appearing in there, which is the signal strength coming off this meter. And if we were to add another meter in here, say ADC, you'll see that the ADC is in there now. We can format this with a carriage return line feed, so it's easier to read for this demo. So there, we've got signal strength for RX1 with the ADC average and the ADC peak coming out, and you can have whatever meters you want in there displaying. I think you can even, I can't remember if I put clock in here. Yes, so there's the time coming out of here as well. So you can use data out node to do all that type of thing. So the last thing related to all this that I want to look at is the rotator. So we'll close this down and we'll get rid of those things from there. But what I will do is add a rotator. So this is the rotator implementation in Thetis. It's entirely visual, so it doesn't control your rotator. It has to control it via another piece of software. So we'll just switch this to dark mode so it's not so eye burning. If you've only got an azimuth rotator, or you just want to use elevation, or both, you can. And you can alter the scaling factor of it. So you can have it as wide as the box or wide as the container. And as you can see, there it sits. Now, I use PST Rotator to control mine, and that is what this has been developed alongside really with. However, I need to get some info from PST Rotator into Thetis. And if we come to communication, UDP control setup, port 12,000 is where PST Rotator listens to, so info comes in there, but it always sends out one port higher, so 12,001. So outbound from PST Rotator is always one higher than that, and that is documented in the manual, which you can get through the menu somewhere. It's probably in there. So it's going to output on 12,001. So I'm going to come to here, I'll get rid of that one we just made in the multimeter IO, and we'll add a UDP listener. But what we will say is on 12,001, listening on 12,001, and it's of type raw. This sends out type raw. So if I move my rotator now, you'll see straight away that the AZ azimuth is coming in and is 78, which is this red value, 71, so 70, 71. So like before, this is a variable, and if we go to the rotator, we can say that the azimuth is using this variable, and boom, there it is. So if I now move to 30 degrees using PST Rotator, you'll see that Thetis moves as well. So that's that aspect of it done, but we want to be able to use Thetis to control this. You might have multiple rotators that are connected through to Thetis and all sorts. So let's go back to this serial network. We want to make it bidirectional. So we want to send stuff to PST Rotator, which, like I say, receives on 12,000, outputs on 12,001, which we're currently using. So it receives on 12,000. So we need to output to 12,000, which is there, and we need to output in raw. And this is the 4-character ID for it, so we will copy that. We will take it to the rotator, allow control, and paste it into the 4-character ID, which is there. Now, if I use Thetis and I let go, click drag and let go, then it sends a message over to PST Rotator via the IO system, and PST Rotator acts on it, so it's got this, that's where it's moving to. And you can also hover over the center of the rotator, and it will give that red dot, and if you click once or twice, a couple of times, it will send a message to stop. There is a known issue with PST Rotator. Sometimes this stop thing doesn't work when you click on it, so I just tend to click a couple of times, and it always stops then. So yes, that's how you get PST Rotator linked in. And of course, you know, you can run multiple instances of this and have different IO connectors and all sorts. There is an addition you can add to this stop command, so that's the command that it sends to PST Rotator when you stop. There's one that you can add to that to add on tracking, and have a look on the forums or on Discord for information on that. Incidentally, while I mentioned Discord, we've got a Discord server running. There's a couple of hundred people on there who are registered. 50 something of them are testers who get special access to testing group, which has early access builds and all sorts. So it's quite good. The link for it actually, I think, is in. We go into setup, which is here, of course. We go on HW select, release notes. Yeah, you can click here and it will attempt to join you to Discord. If you're on a PC or a Mac or whatever, install the Discord desktop version. Otherwise, it'll try to do it through a browser, and I've never got on with the browser version. So install Discord first, the desktop version, but yeah, it's pretty good on the Discord server. So that's IO, that's some of the new meter containers. We can have a quick look at some more of this stuff. Database management, auto height, legacy stuff we've looked at. Yes, this is a big addition from Warren. So NR2 has been tweaked. Let's get rid of some of this. NR2 has been tweaked, so you can right click on NR to go straight to the and if setup is not there, it will actually show it. But here we have a trained option for NR2, which uses machine trained data to improve NR2, which is pretty awesome. And let's just bring that document back quickly, because I accidentally closed it there. So there's lots and lots of new features in Thetis. There's that one we were just looking at, chords are displayed, tune box LED, yeah. G2 has had some stuff added by Brian, so keep an eye out for that. Band selectors, yeah, we've looked at all that. Serial connectors, web image, we've looked at that. These bold ones are the ones that I've highlighted as important. Yes, so we've got new options in setup. Network options here, so Kenwood AI command, you know, frequency update and all that sort of stuff. Auto information can now be output on the 4 serial ports. That's something that's been added. Let's see, SWR protection, yes, so transmit. Sorry, it's under antennas. There was a requirement because people wanted to be able to change when the SWR info and protection happen, so that's all configurable now. Diversity has a bunch of memories that can be used, so you can, so there's showing its position 1 and 2. Has a record, so you can just click on these and it will go to them. And if you, I think it's control, I forget what it is now, to shift click to store. There we go. So if we're on memory 3 and we shift click, so we shift click meter 3 here, and it has, so we recall meter 3 just by clicking. We position it to some place, shift click on meter 4. It will store it in there, yeah, so I'd forgotten, I don't really use this, but people wanted it, so yeah. So, and you can control click, which isn't mentioned there, control click to erase them. So shift click to add, control click to erase. So there we go, and of course, you know, it allows you to do all that. So that's diversity. Diversity, startup options. Okay, what time are we running at? Okay, we're over an hour now, so apologies for this. I could split it, but I figured we might as well just get it all done in one video, and if people want to watch it all they can, or speed through it with ×2 speed. So, startup options. Whole loads of startup options, which can show forms at startup. You can have the radio auto power on, and this stuff here, you can have it starting executables as well. So you just turn one on, hit the ... give it an executable or a batch file, and then it will attempt to launch it when Thetis starts, and it won't do it if it's already running, if that's ticked on, and if that's ticked on, it will try to close it. It's not always successful, but it will do its best when Thetis shuts down. So that's that. Auto starting. Okay, ASO config. So CMASO has been, protocol 1 has been enabled for CMASO, so you can use CMASO with protocol 1 now. and you get a tab in Thetis, Audio, CMASO. You will only get that tab, however, if you add a command line parameter to the Thetis shortcut of I think it's -hyphen CMASO config. But that's documented in a page in the manual, and if you go to Thetis, right click, open file location, there's some PDFs in here, and one of them is CMASO guide, which tells you about CMASO, and page 3, which I added, Brian was out of town, he couldn't do it, so I just quickly added it on here, and it gives you info about the CMASO config onto the command line and all that sort of stuff, so have a read of that if you're into that. But that has been added. What else? Oh yes, we finally have an about box, which is up here, which I added the other day, and it brings all information that it can gather and displays it here. So DirectX version, all sorts, firmware version, protocol 2, which the protocol is supporting version 3.9 of the protocol 2, WDSP version, etc. So that's all there, and it has the ability to show a big button up here in sort of a faded red color if there's an update on GitHub or a test build, so that will show there. Got all the people that have worked on Thetis over the years, Warren, Lawrence, Rick, Brian, you know, all in the list. And the people who worked on it a long time ago and originally worked on it. And so that's all that. You can bring up system info and DX diag from there. And copy info, incidentally, will if you click on copy info, you need to paste this into somewhere or give it to somebody to say what versions of everything you run, you can do that. It basically puts all that information from here into the clipboard, and then you can do Control V to paste it out. So that's setup window, which was added, 50 multimeter containers, as I said. TX anywhere, literally, if you have extended turned on. Previously it had to result in a known band that Thetis knew about, i.e. one of the HF bands or the shortwave listening bands. It had to be in one of those before it would transmit, but now it transmits anywhere. If it's out of one of those bands, it will attempt to find the nearest one and use bandpass filters and LPFs for that nearest band. So be wary about using all that, and always remember that if you go to turn that on, you get this warning here: change will clear your band stack entries, so be wary of that. And also if you change the region, it'll do the same thing. 50 millimeter containers, I say, you know, there is so much stuff in here, you really need to go through it, have a read. This is one thing that happened. So it was identified that there was transmit power on a port which was identified as RX only, and it required firmware update and a new version of Thetis, which this obviously supports. And if you check in the about box, I forgot to mention there are a lot of links in here which I thought was a great place to put it, so useful links. So if you want to look at a Thetis release on GitHub, you can select it and hit visit, and it will take you there. So if we've got that over there, community forums takes you there, and down here there's the protocol 2 firmware RF fix. So these are the protocols that Rick did, the firmwares that Rick did for that fix that I was mentioning. Hermes Lite 2 is on there, DSP documentation from Warren if you want to have a read on all that stuff. So yeah, there's a few links there, and if anybody's got any suggestions for some more links that they want to show down there, then we can always add those in. So what else? So yeah, I think that's pretty much it really in terms of features. We've had a look at all this stuff off and on, various things. Color picker, yeah, the transmit attenuation has changed. Previously it used to share the step attenuator number up down box, but now it doesn't, and you can see that it changes to TXAT. You can also change the color of that if you're not happy with that. Red, dark red color, I just set it as dark red because, you know, I treat red as sort of transmit. But you can change that to whatever you like in there. Like we could change it to yellow. As you can see, it changed there. So that's that. Dark red was that one. And I've successfully closed that document again. So give me a second to show that. We can have a quick check to see if there's anything else I want to mention in here. There's things for like setting up S9 to happen at 30 meg or anything below 144 meg. There's options for that in config, new cat commands and things, new MIDI commands. There's a whole ton of various things in here, so I would suggest, like I say, having a good read of it. Anyway, I think that's it. Sorry for the long video. Apologies for that, but I wanted to cover as much as I could. Many bugs have been resolved, but it's like Thetis has always been. It's not bug free, so just bear in mind, keep in mind that. And if you find any, visit us on Discord, as I say, or you can log. Please report any issues over on GitHub here. If you hit that, it will take you to the bug report. When you do a bug report, hit get started, and please put a decent title in here and follow the information. Describe the bug, so cut that out and then type your bug in there, you know, to reproduce, type and type what it is there, you know, that type of thing. Provide all the information as much as you can, because bug reports are just haven't really been submitted properly over the years. Join us on Discord, view the Apache Labs forums there. That's for that fix, which is still mentioned in here because it's quite important. And then all the stuff that we've just gone through. So there we are. Okay, if there's anything else that I can think of, I'll add it to the video description. And like everybody says, lots of people watch the videos, but not too many people subscribe. So I'd appreciate that if you could hit the subscribe, like, and the bell icon. I don't release videos very often, but you never know. With that ticked on, you might get a notification once in a while. Okay, thanks for that. Thanks for putting up with me waffling on. It's been a cool year of adding extra stuff to Thetis. Progress now is going to be looking at replacing more and more of this with container-based solutions, so that all this can eventually be turned off. And in the distant future, perhaps next year, Spectrum will be in a container and RX2 will be in a container. Oh, something quickly I should add. If we switch on RX2, previously for RX2, let me turn the legacy stuff back on so you can see it. Legacy band buttons. So legacy band buttons for RX2 were in this drop down here. However, you can obviously add a container. If we do this, appearance multimeters, we can add a container for RX2, okay? And we can add band buttons in there. So these are the RX2 band buttons, and as you saw it was on 20, which is here. But if we hit and this is grayed out, remember now, because VFO-B does not relate to RX1 anymore. VFO-B belongs to RX2, so that's why that's grayed out. If you wanted to see RX2, we can add it to this same container for the sake of this. So there's VFO, and we've got sync on, which incidentally you can click on the VFO boxes. There's lock VFO and there's VFO sync. So see how RX2 is changing. But we've got the full band buttons now for RX2, so you can pick your bands. Right click on here doesn't bring up band stack because there's no band stack for RX2 at the moment. So that's that. Anyway, I got slightly derailed. I wanted to tell you quickly about that. I should have mentioned it before, but it just came to me then. So yes, cheers for watching. If you've got any other ideas or whatever, pop and visit us on Discord or drop it into GitHub. And just let us know how you're getting on with all the new features. On Discord we've got a picture channel where you can put screenshots of your layouts and all sorts of stuff like that. But yeah, as I say, continuing on, we'll be changing the rest of this to use the new system, and like I say, these will eventually appear in containers sometime next year. And from there on, who knows? Alright, cheers very much for watching. Take it easy. I'll catch you on the next ones. See ya.